You know, the most striking truth about the agreement ladder is that your biggest concessions, they almost never start with a big request. They start with a truth so obvious that disagreeing with it just feels impossible. We all like to think we can spot a trap coming from a mile away, right? But in these high-pressure dynamics, agreement is often the very tool used to bypass your common sense. And that's really the heart of it. This isn't about figuring out if someone is a good or bad person. It's about understanding how simple conversational momentum, just a rhythm of agreement, can start moving so fast that it outpaces your own intuition, leading you somewhere you never, ever intended to go. So that brings us to the big question, the one we're going to unpack today. Why does this work so darn well? This is the core paradox of the agreement ladder. It's that moment when your own very human desire to be consistent is turned around and used to lead you into a decision you never actually wanted to make. So how does it happen? Let's break it down. To really get this, we're going to follow a clear roadmap. First, we'll dive into the yes paradox, that weird feeling when you're agreeing, but something feels off. Then we'll look at the psychological blueprint that makes this thing tick. After that, we'll dissect the ladder, step by step, and understand the consistency engine that powers it. And most importantly, we'll cover how to interrupt that rhythm and take back your right to say no. Okay, so let's start with this core idea. The yes paradox is all about that strange feeling when you find yourself agreeing not because you're truly sold on the idea, but because you're just caught in the current. It's a state where the conversational momentum, that simple back and forth rhythm, starts moving faster than your own critical thinking. Your gut might be screaming that something is wrong, but that desire not to break the flow, not to be awkward, just keeps you nodding along. So, how is this momentum built? Well, this isn't just some clever social trick. It's a process that's deeply rooted in cognitive science. We're about to look at the psychological blueprint for creating what's known as a yes set, and it's an incredibly powerful tool for manufacturing agreement. Think of it like a schematic for turning a regular conversation into a conveyor belt that only leads to one place. Okay, so the technical term is a mouthful, Successive Approximation Compliance, but really it's just the agreement ladder. What's fascinating is where you see this pop up. It's a hallmark of predatory high-pressure sales, coercive social groups, and even some corporate cultures where getting to yes is the only thing that matters. The whole point is to build this yes set, a pattern of agreement that basically replaces your careful evaluation of the facts with a relentless hypnotic rhythm. And this right here perfectly illustrates the two states of mind we're talking about. On the left, you've got analytical sovereignty. That's you at your best. You're evaluating facts, making decisions based on actual content, and you're prioritizing your own safety. But on the right, you have momentum-based compliance. And here, you're not analyzing anymore. You're just following a script. Your agreement is based on the rhythm, not the substance. Your focus shifts from your own well-being to just keeping the social flow going. The entire goal of the agreement ladder is to slide you, without you even noticing, from that left column over to the right. Now, this whole technique works because it exploits two very common, very human vulnerabilities. First, there's the consistency trap. That's that little pang of guilt you feel if you even think about breaking a pattern. It feels rude, right? Disruptive. And second, there's ego-depletion. See, every decision you make, even a tiny one, uses up mental energy. So saying yes over and over, even to obvious stuff, can literally wear you down, leaving you too mentally tired to put up a fight when the really big request finally drops. And people who've been through this often report a very specific feeling. They call it conversational slipping. It's that sensation where you've kind of lost the plot. You're not even sure how you got to this point in the argument, and you just have this overwhelming urge for the conversation to be over. And this is so critical because right there, agreement becomes an escape hatch. You agree just to get out of the awkwardness and discomfort. Okay, so we've covered the theory. Now let's get practical. Let's walk through the actual structure of the ladder. How does this thing actually unfold, step by step, in a real conversation? It pretty much always happens in 3 stages. Step 1 is the micro-truth phase. This is where they hit you with a series of simple, undeniable questions. You want what's best for your family, right? Of course you do. You value your time, don't you? I mean, who doesn't? Disagreeing with these just feels ridiculous. Then comes step 2, the transition step. This is the pivot. They skillfully bridge those obvious truths to their specific agenda. Well, since you value your time, you can see why our system is the only logical choice. And boom, step 3, the commitment momentum. This is the lock-in. Because you've already said yes and yes and yes, the psychological pressure to stay consistent is just huge. Your own brain starts pushing you to agree with that final request, just to make the tension go away. So now that we've seen how it's built, let's explore the really deep-seated why. What is it about our own brains that makes this whole sequence so effective? What's the engine that's really driving this?
At its core, this whole dynamic is powered by two competing drives. The manipulator's goal, it's something called frictionless compliance. They want to get their way without having to use force or threats. If they can build a yes set, your own mind does the heavy lifting for them. And on the other side, our vulnerability is often a deep, deep social need for cohesion. So many of us are taught from a young age that it's more important to not be difficult than it is to be accurate or assertive. We just want things to be smooth, and that desire is the doorway they walk right through.
And what's underpinning all of this is a powerful mental shortcut our brains use, the consistency bias. And I really want to stress this. This is not a character flaw. It's a hardwired biological tendency we all have. Our brains are designed for efficiency, so they like to follow a path we've already started on. But that shortcut, that efficiency mechanism, can be hijacked, leading us to keep walking down a path of agreement, even when it's clear it's no longer in our best interest.
This quote just captures that internal shift perfectly. When the pressure from the consistency bias gets to be too much, the main question in your head changes. You're no longer thinking, do I actually want this? Do I believe this? You've switched into survival mode. And now the only question is, how do I get through this? What do I need to say to make this interaction end?
All right, so now for the most important part of this whole explainer. Knowing all this is one thing, but how do you spot it when it's happening? And what can you actually do to take back control? What's the protocol for stepping off the ladder? The first step, the absolute foundation, is awareness. And you can build that with something I like to call a rhythm audit. It's a simple, quick check-in with yourself. As you're responding, just ask, is this yes an active choice I'm making based on the question? Or am I just echoing the rhythm of the conversation to keep things smooth? That one simple question helps you figure out if you're agreeing based on content or just momentum.
And if that audit tells you that you're caught in the momentum, you can use the wait and reset protocol. It's 3 super simple, actionable steps. First, pause. Just stop. Take a breath. Say, let me think about that for a second. This shatters the rhythm. Second, label. Just in your own head, acknowledge what's going on. Okay, I see what's happening. I'm in a yes pattern. Just labeling it creates distance. And third, reset. You take back control by asking a clarifying question. Something simple like, wait, can you just walk me through how we got from that first point to this one? It forces them to go back to content and kills the rhythm. And this, right here, is the single most important realization you need to have. Taking back your power means fully, completely accepting that your past agreements do not own your future ones. Your yes to those first 5 easy questions does not obligate you to say yes to the 6th final request. You always, always have the right to change your mind. So let's bring this all home with the biggest takeaway from our entire discussion. At the end of the day, this is all about understanding that your personal autonomy is not and should never be a predictable pattern that someone else can control. Look, the biggest lesson the agreement ladder can teach us is that consistency is a tool, not a moral obligation. We're so often taught that being consistent is a virtue, and hey, it can be. But when it's being used against you, you have to reframe it. It's a tool you can choose to use, not a rule you are forced to obey. Stepping off that ladder at any time isn't a moral failing. It is an act of self-preservation. And that's the final crucial point. The whole cycle is broken the moment you truly realize this. Your mind is your own, and awareness is the key that ensures nobody else's yes set becomes a cage for your autonomy. You are not a pattern. You are a person with the right to say no.